What is up, everybody? SysAdmin Sean here, and today I want to do a little bit of a different video. I've kind of done research on a topic because it's something we had to do for work that we're still sort of deciding which way we want to go with it. So I thought I'd bring you all along and see what you think. So you might be familiar with the KB that I have linked up here, a KB 503-443-9 Windows Recovery Environment Update for Windows Server 2022. Now, the reason I say you might be familiar with this update is it caused a lot of people a lot of pain. And apparently it seems to still be causing people a lot of pain. So essentially what they did was they had an update to make sure to fix an issue where people could bypass BitLocker via the Windows recovery partition to get access to the system. For this to matter, you needed to, one, have a recovery partition on Windows Server, and two, it needed to have your drives BitLocker encrypted and were concerned that somebody could get to them this way via physical means or virtual breakout, whatever. So those are two very important pieces. And I want to highlight that in a lot of environments, those two things may not exist. A lot of places I've seen, and I'll show links to some of this, is that there's no reason to have a recovery partition on Windows Server. And the idea there being that if you're really running into an issue on Windows Server that you would need recovery partition, you would either just go ahead and rebuild the server or restore it from backup and call it a day. That's one way to do it. Another piece of this is that why would you have your Windows Server drives BitLockered when you would probably want to do VMware level encryption, if they're virtual machines, so that you would still get some of the benefits of storage management stuff without having separate encrypted drives all across the board. That's something to consider. Some folks don't need deduplication and things like that, so encrypting the drives is really important. I'm trying to think of a situation where you would want a recovery partition and your drives encrypted where this update really comes into play, one or the other, most likely. I would get rid of recovery partitions and BitLocker it and then just say, let's just restore from scratch if it's gone. No big deal. We have encrypted backups. We'll restore from that. Bada bing, bada boom. But let's say you do. Let's say you have recovery partitions and you just want to make sure that you're patching your stuff. Now, you might know that there's a Windows 10 equivalent update for this as well that caused a lot of issues as well. The problem with the update was the changes that it made required your recovery partition to be larger than Windows default recovery partition was, which means that any of the systems you spun up, you had to manually go in and tweak the recovery partition in some way, whether that's getting rid of it, growing it, a lot of this stuff to make this update even work, which seems pretty dangerous in my mind. I don't know. A lot of people, partition tools are what they are. Partitions are easy to do. You can do all of the changes that Windows needs in Windows tools, which is nice. I usually don't like to adjust things Windows has pre-built because sometimes Windows doesn't like it when you adjust things that are pre-built. So that was sort of a hesitation for a lot of folks. And apparently, according to some links, that actually caused a bigger problem. Do you do this? What do you do? And a lot of people said, well, you know what? I'm just going to defer the update. We don't really fit that use case. So I'll defer the update until Microsoft releases an update, a fix to this update to make it better. They haven't done that yet. What up, everyone? SysAdmin Sean here with a future update from Editor Sean. It looks like since I drug my feet on getting this video out that some new information came to light before I could deploy, which is great. On May 2nd, Microsoft announced that it will not be fixing this Windows error, and you will have to do the options that are available by either manually changing your recovery partition or by just hiding the update. And that works for some folks. It's not going to work for others. And I really hate that's the only two options. Now, obviously, you can self-automate these things, or what I would really recommend you do, at least for the server side, is download the most up-to-date ISO from Windows, preferably with this update already rolled in, and then just redeploy as needed. It's usually cleaner that way anyway, even though it takes a little bit longer to do things. But that's all from future me. Back to the video. And this update came out in January, and it is almost May at this point. And what's kind of also interesting is they've pulled it from the update catalog and WSUS. So as long as you're running a WSUS server, you shouldn't be pulling this update unless you already downloaded it off of an older server, and then it's sitting there trying to install and update and things like that. But let's go over a little bit more of this. So as you can see, this update automatically applies the Safe OS dynamic update to the Windows recovery environment. Cool, except it doesn't repartition that drive if you don't have enough space. This is a very important update. You don't want people to be able to access your encrypted drives via Windows recovery. So it needs to be done, but as you can see, this update requires 250 megs of free space in the recovery partition to install successfully. A lot of times people just didn't even have 250 megs in their recovery partition. It cut up a little chunk and it said this is plenty. So you get this, and here's their fix: is to manually resize your partition to install the Windows RE update. And they even offer a script. The script has actually caused problems for a lot of folks, is what I've heard. And then they've pulled it from Windows updates, from WSUS. Here are some folks talking about it via the Reddits. A lot of just, this didn't work for me. We have some folks that posted some scripts that fix things. You know, there's lots of okay info here, but this is 3 months ago. And, you know, it's still people running into this issue. And here's one, that's me from a day ago. This blog basically is another clean up the partition and resize it and fix it. Cool. Glad to have that fix. More complaints. This user decided to just go ahead and start hiding the update. I've heard that works. I heard that there's a regedit fix that will make it look like it doesn't have a recovery partition, which seems sort of silly. You should just, you know, remove the recovery partition instead of just kind of hiding it. And then again, more people complaining about 34439. So all that to say, what are you guys doing about this update? Did you just install it, make all the manual changes and fix it? Do you even have recovery partitions? Do you BitLocker your Windows server drives, or do you do encryption at a different level? What are you doing in your environment in relation to this update for Windows Server 2022? I've heard that the manual resize doesn't even work if it's server core for some reason. So that's kind of weird. And I'm a little upset that Microsoft, at least from what I can find, hasn't released anything else about this update. No new news, no changes. I don't know if they just can't. I don't know if they just don't see it's worthwhile. Maybe they're going through the same situation of, well, of the people that downloaded this, they're not really using BitLocker anyway, so why are they even caring about this update? Let me know what you're doing in your environment related to this update or the Windows 10 update. Did you automatically resize all the partitions on your Windows 10 machines? Did you completely rebuild your systems from scratch and give them a better Windows recovery partition to start with? Did you wait until this KB is rolled into one of the newer ISO files so that it's already in there and you don't have to think about it? That's a pretty good way to go too. Just let me know in the comments below, and thanks as always, and we'll see you in the next one.